Anyway, hey, I'm back, right? So please go and peruse the previous parts before. So this Oki is like, he kept on insisting, South Africa, I want to come to South Africa. And I kept on telling him, like, he saw my life conditions. He saw I was a persecuted Christian. Now, guys, coming from a Christian vantage point, please don't come at me if you are in the United States on some xenophobic tip and you are like, Africans, we don't want you here, leave. The border there with Mexico is already packed and we've got issues with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. This is from a Christian vantage point. I'm speaking as a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. And my hope is that I'm being listened to by Christians as well, who understand why a Christian would need to seek asylum in another country. It is not because we are running away from a bad economy. It is not because we are running away from poverty. It is usually because we're running away from persecution. So go check out the Voice of the Martyrs or any Christian organizations that enable asylum seekers in the spirit of religious persecution that go to the United States or Australia or Europe or countries that are less hostile. Like there are people from Iran that have moved to the US because of religious persecution, having turned their lives over to the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, these individuals, they would know what are the criteria for a person to be moved over to a new country because in their land they basically cannot breathe because of religion, right? Now, those of you who are actively studying reassignments of location nation of Christians that are moving because of religious persecution, would it make sense for you to perhaps fall in love with a woman in a persecuting nation, right? And then decide when you are living in a much less hostile nation as a man, you're the man, right? And you're living in a nation that is far less hostile. But because you want to leave your own country due to the fact that, I don't know, it's Babylon, you want to leave your nation because you can see that, hey, things are starting to go awry. I know that things are turning around for Christians in America right now, not around, but in a negative direction. Like it's getting bad, persecution is increasing, but that's happening across the world. But it is still far better, the US than Iran, far better than China, far better than North Korea, far better than Nigeria, far better than, I could go on, right? Many of the countries in the Middle East. So if you are a responsible, God-serving man that is indeed looking for a bride and you want to take care of her and protect her, would you, as a fervent believer that is biblical, Christian, you are always in this word, would you meet a damsel in distress that you find attractive, that you want to make a wife from the US that you're sitting at, and insist that you rather move to her country where she has got evidences of extreme persecution, rather than, you take her into your humble abode that she might be protected from the severity of her country? The responsible decision that is loving the way that Christ loved the church would be for this man, upon falling in love with a bride in a persecuting land, to take her into safety, into essentially the proverbial Noah's Ark of this less hostile nation. From a biblical vantage point, I'm not even speaking about green card seekers who want American citizenship because of thinking the American dream and the American pie is what everybody must eat. Like, no, I'm speaking from a religious vantage point, from a kingdom perspective, from a Christianity perspective. It does not make sense. And here is this guy that I met that was in the US, alright? And he was insisting on coming to South Africa. Anyway, I couldn't understand why he wanted to come to a land where he doesn't have his family members. I might have family, but they've all rejected me. They've all persecuted me. Like, I stood to gain from being amidst his people because they did not reject him or abuse him because of his faith. So I stood to inherit his family, if you know what I mean. Hebatung. I could not understand this guy wanting to come to South Africa. I literally could not get it. Anyway, lo and behold, eventually I check out this blog, this Christian, these two married, this couple in the US, right? But the chick was from Kenya. She moved to the United States and she explained the process of applying to stay in the United States, right? Her and her husband, upon deciding that they want to get married now, they had to go through some rigorous process. And when she explained to me that process, I was like, my goodness, that is why this guy insisted on coming to South Africa. He was a con artist. In South Africa, I believe this ever since last time I checked anyway, if you meet a guy in, like, I don't know, Great Britain, and the two of you fall in love and you want to get married and he comes to South Africa, all that is required is for you guys to get married, and then you just kind of do the papers, and he comes and he lives in SA. It's like as basic as that, nothing intense, right? But in the US, apparently, there's like a whole, not apparently, definitely, there's like a whole process. First of all, they have to do a means test. Like the person who wants to bring over the spouse has to prove that they have an ability to take care of the spouse. The two of them have to prove that they financially can uphold a sustainable lifestyle in the United States. They have got to have documentation showing their finances such that they're not going to be a burden on the American economy, where now we've got this new married couple and they're both on welfare. They had, like, you cannot just bring a citizen into the country to just burden the government with extra, what is this, like a mouth to feed, like the government with an extra mouth to feed. There's already enough US citizens that are being, like, taken care of on a socialistic system by the United States. You know, welfare checks and whatnot, like food stamps. There's already enough Americans on that. So why in the world would I want to go and feed now a Kenyan that comes from Kenya to come and eat off us because she fell in love with an American? So the man had to prove that he's got a solid, sustainable enough income and a house that he lives in and everything, right? That he might indeed bring a bride from Kenya and the two of them would get married. They had to both save money for something called a KY visa, right? And this visa is what is done for people who fall in love and, you know, the one person is from another country, but they want to move to the US. And she spoke about how it was super expensive, and this visa, they applied for it during the time of the pandemic. Just the restrictions were just slightly being lifted at this stage, and so they had to quickly, like, move it to the United States. Otherwise, they'd have to reapply for again, and it's an onerous, arduous process that is also very financially taxing. And both of them had to save monies from their own salaries to get them. When I listened to this girl talking, it's like God keeps on giving me bits of understanding as to what this guy was trying to do to me. Yo, guys. Yeah, South Africa would not have, like, endured him through all that rigorous process. But America would have definitely endured him through that process. He was struggling. He didn't even have his own house. I told you he was living a roommate somewhere. He did not have a sufficient enough sustainable income to justify bringing a woman from Africa. I would have essentially been a burden on the American system if at all I ended up going there. And this guy, instead of coming forward and admitting that, because I think he did all the inquiries and asked, and they told him what is required for you to bring a woman to South Africa, to the US. And when then I was talking with him about how, dude, why are you insisting that we go to South Africa? Because, you know, I'm persecuted here. He got so angry, so aggressive, so hostile, and he kept on hating that I was, like, poking at his questions. And it was at that stage when he started to ghost me, pass me shade, but he was in love with me. So he couldn't entirely get over me and just move on. He still wanted to cajole an agenda in. So he would keep on, like, calling me back on some, we need to talk about this. South Africa's the way. Plus, you know, there's more buck for the dollar there. Like, we can buy bigger houses and what. Yes, you guys, I ended up capitulating, having no clue that he was effectively trying to scam me into moving to my country because he was sick and tired of running away from his own nation. He was a bandit there. He wanted to continue in his criminality, but in South Africa where nobody knows him, and so he's not going to have some hawks, like police, always all up in his grill. Yes, you guys, like he was such a criminal. He was a criminal, and he was a criminal that wanted love, and he wanted the best woman in the land. He wanted a godly girl. He wanted a Christian woman that would submit and not ask too many questions. And he also wanted to take care of every last one of my needs. Hey guys, as in next part.